Now, the things people turn to may change, but the void in our life, that emptiness, it's a loneliness for God.
Greg Laurie pastors one of America's largest churches, the 15,000-member Harvest Christian Fellowship in L.A. But despite his strong faith, he was literally knocked off his feet when he learned his son Christopher was killed in a car crash.
I just collapsed on the ground, and for days I felt like I was carrying a huge weight on my chest. I mean, literally, I felt a physical pressure where I just, it was just like, how will I get through this?
Kathy Laurie said she felt her dreams disappear.
That day, I felt like God had taken a big eraser to this chalkboard and just said, no, erase this all. This isn't how it's going to play out.
Whether it's the loss of a loved one, financial ruin, or a health crisis, people everywhere are losing hope. But the Lauries say you can find hope by watching how others did it.
I wanted to look at somebody else who had been through this. It was one of the reasons why we made this film.
This movie will help to point them to God and say, here's other people who've experienced something as bad as what you are experiencing, maybe even worse, depending, and there's hope.
In addition to the Lauries, the movie profiles Nick Vujicic, who was born with no arms or legs.
I would try putting on a brave face at school and pretend it wouldn't hurt, but I would be up all night crying, praying, God, give me arms and legs, give me arms and legs. And he wouldn't give it to me.
Also, Christian singer Jeremy Camp, whose wife died of cancer.
And to see not a progression, but a digression, basically, of what was happening in her health, there's just doubts. God, are you listening? Like, what? Do you know that we're here? I mean, are you hearing these prayers?
For the Lauries, Nick and Jeremy, hope began when they stopped asking why.
And instead, we should be asking the what question, as in, what should I do now? How should I react? And I think what we want to do is lean into Christ, and we want to seek to bring glory to his name through this. And one day, all of those whys will be resolved.
At first, Nick was so hopeless, he planned to drown himself.
And I knew what that water represented. It was the end of my pain. It was the end of hell for me. I just wanted out.
But right before he killed himself, he decided to give Jesus another chance.
The revelation for me came from John chapter 9. Jesus came across a man who was born blind, and no one knew why. But Jesus said it was done so that the works of God would be revealed through him. And I'm like, wow. Maybe I don't need to know God's plans for God's plans to be even implemented in my life. What if God did have a plan for me?
God did have a plan that was fulfilled. It included a wife, a child, and traveling the world, spreading the good news to millions.
I hope people are inspired to see that you don't need arms and legs to be complete. You don't need arms and legs to be the hands and feet of God. All you need is to be complete on the inside, and everything else will change.
Like Nick, when Jeremy was about to give up on God, he did an about-face, and out came the song I Still Believe, a #1 hit. Dozens would follow, drawing millions closer to the Lord.
It was just me going, I don't understand, it doesn't make sense, but I still believe in your faithfulness, and your truth, and your word. And that was such a healing time for me.
I still believe.
Even after losing their son, Greg and Kathy found that God comforted them, gave them hope for the future, and even filled their hearts with joy again.
You are not in control and you don't have control, but God is in control. And I was thankful that in my pain and in the crisis of that moment, I was absolutely certain that God was not surprised by this and that he was with us and he would walk us through this.
I think we're here on earth for two reasons. We're here, #1, to know God, and we're here to glorify God. But I have found that when we fulfill our purpose as Christians, we will find happiness as a byproduct. Not from seeking it, but from seeking him.
So the message from people who have felt the deepest despair is don't give up on God, because God will never give up on you. Laurie Johnson, CBN News.